Why are games always late? None of us can ever seem to hit our intended release date. We're nearly a year and a half deep on our game that we thought could be made in 6 months. It's fine, just a year gone off my life. And it's not just us, this happens all the time. With other indie devs, GTA, Cyberpunk, Half-Life. From my experience, these delays are usually a result of either scope creep or the game just not being nearly as fun as it was on paper. Sometimes playtesting reveals that everything's not as perfect as you thought. That's why a game like Half-Life 2 has such an extensively different beta. Our game has a lot of stuff like that too. And I should probably tell you what this game even is before continuing. I'm Isaac.
I'm Gunnar.
I'm Preston.
And this is our horror game, Feed the Pit. You're initiated into ECC, a society worshipping an eldritch pit in the ground named Elijah. You must use magical playing cards to talk to spirits while avoiding unpredictable monsters in order to find a dead body and keep Elijah fed. It kind of felt like we never actually finished this game. Until recently. A couple months back, we took a break to release a small game called The Dead Seat. It reminded us how unbelievable it feels to complete a game and the process to do so. And so when arriving back on Feed the Pit, we decided to reduce scope a little so we could actually get this game out someday. Instead of 8 monsters, we're doing our 6th favorite. These have been a huge roadblock to finishing the game, and even after a year, we only have 2 good ones, with this tree spider guy being in a bit of a limbo. So I said, hey, why don't we focus hard and try to get a prototype for all of them by the end of August? And by some miracle, we actually did. There are varying degrees of done, some are great and some need work, but either way, Gunnar cooked. And with this huge milestone, an end is actually in sight. So yes, we will finish this game. And I don't want to spoil every monster, so for today, let's focus on just one. Creating monsters for horror games is hard. I usually ask myself, how do I make it scary and how do I make it stand out? Not just from other monsters in the genre, but also from others within its own game. Because if it's not adding something meaningful, then trash it, drown it, and kill it! Maybe it would be cool if this nemesis had to be babysat, but like in an actually fun and scary way. First, let's just start with the design. The direction we went with to really contrast the other monsters was an adorable little girl. You know, like Annabelle or something. To figure out the specifics, I need to gather some reference images for Preston, and I need to simultaneously figure out how she's gonna work. It's hard to keep track of all these things at once in a bunch of messy Discord channels, so our organization tool of choice for the past few months has been Milanote, which also happens to be today's sponsor. And we actually have been using it a lot. It is a really good tool for making games, with its corkboard-like workflow, making it easy for even a bunch of dumb guys like us to keep our thoughts organized. To get the ball rolling on this nemesis, I went online to gather some reference art. Milanote actually has its own web clipper internet extension, so you can easily pull in images without the need to copy and paste around. Milanote also has real-time collaboration, so Preston immediately saw my references and got to concepting. Then pasted his concepts right on the board for me to leave notes, comments, and draw over. At last, we were aligned on the direction, and I came out with this model for her. From there, we filled out the rest of the info on her board in no time at all, because like, Milanote is really fast, you just drag everything in. The top left is general character info, top right is concept material, bottom left is how she works, which we'll go over shortly, and the bottom right is a checklist to keep track of our tasks. We've used Milanote for a lot more than just her though. In fact, every nemesis has their own board. We found that it's a lot easier to lay out how each of them should function with Milanote compared to Google Docs. What I do is I make a note for each of their different phases, like the frenzy phase, where the monster will go crazy and chase you like a giant, horrible gremlin. I then connect all these phases with a bunch of different arrows so it's easy to see how they transition from one another. That way, when it's time for Gunnar to start programming, it's easy to read and doesn't make him kill me. There's even over 100 built-in templates for making these boards, so you don't ever have to do it from scratch. So all that sounds pretty good, right? Well, guess what, bub? It gets better! Milanote is available for free with no time limit, so sign up for a free Milanote account using the link in our description. If you support them, you're supporting us, and it's genuinely a great tool, so check it out. Thanks, Milanote. So for the little girl, my initial idea was for her to follow you around and she'll wander off and become a monster if you don't find toys to entertain her. Then I decided that I didn't like that. Sounds kind of fetchy, and finding toys isn't really a scary task. But you know what is scary? Being chased. If you're being chased, anything can be scary, even tag. The entire match is a back and forth. Either she's coming to tag you, or you need to follow her song and tag her back. And if you decide not to play along, well, it's really quite not good. It's very scary, actually. I had a developer friend playtest, and while he's been pretty immune to the game's scares so far, this nemesis got him bad. And I won't lie, it was pretty awesome. However, across the board, I started to notice that some of our nemesis could be a bit hard to understand. Originally, we wanted players to be confused and have to use trial and error to learn how they work. But the only way people actually learned anything finishing was by dying, and dying means restarting the mission, and that 30-minute setback kinda made people not want to play. So that's really bad. In comparable games, the monsters tend to be more simplistic, and death is far less consequential. That is a much better environment for learning, an environment which we cannot replicate. So the direction switched from simple but no instruction monsters to complex monsters with obtuse instructions. It's different, but it's good. Every mission starts with some information or rules about the nemesis you'll face. They're vague but crucial bits of info that will help you survive, while also planting a seed of mystery as to what this monster is and what happens if you disobey. This worked really well, but people do still die, and dying still sucks. Here's the failsafe. If you die late in the mission, you'll be offered a death card. You can play this special card instantly upon respawn to kickstart your next attempt. Of course, Pierce players can choose to decline the death card if they so desire. Feat the Pit feels more complete by the day, except there's still only one map and it's kind of flat. So I've begun to design some brand new maps with lots of verticality, rocky terrain, and several secret landmarks to find. At the same time, I also added more lighting scenarios so the passage of time would feel more dynamic and noticeable. You've been seeing it during my whole section, so hopefully you thought it looked pretty rad. I wonder what Gunner's up to. I bet he's having a good time coding.
I've had my fair share of work these past months, with both nemesis and levels taking up the majority of my time. A large portion of this work also consisted of improving the code. I would like to mention that improving code is not always necessary. For example, there currently is no need for me to improve the drowning code or the portal code. Both are fairly simple features, work as intended, and I don't see me currently needing to add to their code. Now, if we were to talk about the player, the tools, the cards, the levels, or the nemesis, yeah, these are all important features to the game that better have very solid and very flexible code. Adding in a new card shouldn't take me a long time to do, and good code reduces that time greatly. When adding in the new levels, it was obvious that I needed to improve the code and systems for levels to make this process faster. This issue isn't always the programmer's fault, it's just that situations arise when adding more stuff. In the first level, every point is either grass or it's water. Then you go to one of the newer levels and you see stone instead of grass in certain spots. This adds a layer of complexity to the level because, obviously, foliage should not be able to spawn on stone, so new variables must be kept in order to prevent this, and these levels need a temporary collision which tracks what spots can have foliage. Then there's a journal map of each level and making it compatible with both the 10x10 grid and the 15x15 grid, and spawning of animals and park rangers. Oh yeah, animals are back. Animals have been gone for a long time, ever since we switched from random to procedural generation.
Hello?
Right. The little girl. Honestly, not too many issues with adding her in. I mean, obviously there was issues here and there, but she was actually one of the quickest nemesis to implement. Regardless of this, I still needed to improve the code for nemesis. Don't worry, I'll keep this brief as to not overcomplicated. All you need to know is that before, each nemesis had mainly one script that held everything. The problem was that if I wanted to adjust all the nemesis, I had to adjust them individually, and all these scripts had a lot of repeating code. Now, as you can see here, this is how the scripts are structured now. Nemesis inherit a nemesis template script, which also inherits an entity template script that is also used for both animals and park rangers. Basically, now if I need to add or remove something from all nemesis, I can do so by changing the nemesis template script. Are you sleeping? Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Wowie kazowie, it's been too long. So while we were undergoing various acts of development, I had a thought. We really need new cards. Ever since we added the cards, we've had close to the bare minimum for testing, which is fine for a while, but we came to the conclusion that it would be best to sprinkle them in throughout development, not all at once. Not only does this allow us ample time to test the cards, but also get a feel for the balance. So, it's time to get to work. Which I already did, and that's why I'm talking about it. The cards you're dealt are reliant on RNG, like most deck builders and roguelites. So, sometimes you'll get the best card in the game, and sometimes you'll need to adjust your strategy. This will help make every round feel different, and grant the player a great sense of satisfaction when they finally pull exactly what they needed. So, after all that, here are some of the cards I was able to come up with. Another small but significant change I want to make is upgrading the player's tech. Oh yeah, say goodbye pathetic compass. Introducing the latest, the greatest, GPS. We wanted the player to get more information without having to always open up the journal, like what space you're standing on and what your elevation is. So I whipped up a GPS model, handmade a bunch of compass positions, and BAM! We have technology. The last main thing I've been working on that I'd like to talk about is all the landmarks and structures. Things like a clock tower, a broken fountain, railing along the mountainside, and finalizing temporary models. I've been having an easier time with UVs after taking a day to watch tutorials and made some cool practice models. Also, go follow my Twitter, where I post this kind of stuff and teasers for things I'm working on. Well, I guess that's all. Until next time, my friends.
It's almost time to truly dive deep into the game's story and start implementation. I want players to laugh, to cry, and mostly to pee with fear. So I would love to hear, what sort of story are you hoping to see? As a fan of the Dead Seed, as a story about this giant pit, as a member of this crooked cult, and as a visitor in the dangerous, ever-changing woods of Carister Valley. Please let me know in the comments. We hit our 8,000 wishlist goal, so we'll be giving away 5 free copies of Feed the Pit. To enter, simply join our Discord and interact with the post and server announcements with a yarn emoji. If we hit 9,000 wishlists by the next devlog, we'll do another giveaway, so go wishlist Feed the Pit on Steam. And if you want to support us further, we have a Patreon. $10 supporters get to playtest the game early. A huge thank you to all our patrons and an extra special shout out to Amalur, Fred19, Shiverr, Tibbers, Whisker, Xadu, and Dumbbird. Thank you all so much,
and we'll see you soon.